Good morning. Welcome to the 5th press conference of the Press Center of the 19th CPC National Congress. Today we are very glad to have with us Mr. Chen Baoshen, Party Secretary and Minister of the Ministry of Education, Mr. Ying Weiming, Party Secretary and Minister of the Ministry of Civil Affairs, Mr. Huang Shuxian, Party Secretary and the Minister of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, Mr. Wang Mohui, Party Secretary and the Minister of the Ministry of Urban Rural Development and Housing, and Madam Li Bing, Chairman of the National Health and Family Planning Commission. They will brief you on the meeting people's new expectations and ensuring and improving people's well-being. Now, Minister Chen, you have the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, friends from the press, good morning. First of all, on behalf of all the staff and employees of the educational sector of China, I wish to say a big thank you to all of those who have cared for and supported the development of education in China, and also thank those journalists who have been following education closely. Education is an important project relating to people's livelihood. And since reform and opening up, education in China has been developing rapidly. In his report delivered to the 19th CPC National Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping fully recognized the progress being made in China in education. He emphasized that all-round progress has been made in the development of education, with remarkable advances made in the central and western regions and in rural areas. The first comment was an overall judgment, and the second part was what we have been doing in shoring up weak links by offering preferential policies. And these comments have highlighted what we have achieved in education since the 18th CPC National Congress, and we are all quite inspired and encouraged by this comment and evaluation. And I think this is reflected in the following areas. Over the past 5 years, we have seen education in China gaining more distinct Chinese features. We have upheld and strengthened party leadership on education and encouraged employees in the education sector to foster political consciousness in 4 areas, vigorously cultivate and promote socialist core values. This is a fundamental work that we have. We also encourage our students to formulate a correct vision on history, on the nation, on their country, and on culture. The purpose is to ensure that all people will be more proud of being Chinese. This is the work that we have been doing. Second, over the past 5 years, we have seen education modernization speeding up. I'll share with you some statistics. First, with regard to the financial resources on education. Over the past 5 years, we have seen fiscal spending on education up from 2 trillion RMB yuan to 3.8 trillion RMB yuan last year. And for the first time, the fiscal spending on education reached 4% of GDP in 2011, and that is what we have been doing over the past 5 years. Broadband access in schools cover over 90% of the learning institutions. And we have also ensured that over 2/3 of the research results done by educational institutions have won top prizes of the nation. All this has strongly underpinned the progress of education in China. And over the past 5 years, we have educated over 80 million personnel who are involved in the education sector. And we have ensured that we have a pool of human resources in the educational sector exceeding 130 million. All this has strongly supported the development of an innovative strategy for China's development. Over the past 5 years, we have seen people gaining a stronger sense of fulfillment and benefit in education. Let me also share with you some statistics. Over the past 5 years, we have advocated a strategy of leaving no one behind in education. We are caring more about those people living in poor areas, rural areas, and ethnic minority regions. Over the past 5 years, no student become a dropout because of their family conditions. This is a target that we have basically achieved. Over 90% of students or children with a disability can now have school access, including those with hearing or visual impairments. This is also an outstanding achievement. And for those children whose parents have moved to cities to find jobs, those children can also go to public schools at places where their parents work for. They can also attend college entrance examinations in the same places. In 2017, over 150,000 such students have attended college entrance examination at the places where their parents work for, which is 36 times compared with 5 years ago. We have also established an assistance system covering the entire process from preschool education to universities. So for those students from underprivileged families, they can attend schools with support from the government. A student from Gansu province and another student from Hebei province have been enrolled by Tsinghua University thanks to this support. Over the past 5 years, we have also seen Chinese education gaining more international influence and rising international standing. China has set up cooperative cultural cooperation with 180 countries and signed agreement on mutual recognition of educational diploma with 47 countries. So Chinese educational diploma are now recognized by a growing number of countries. With over 140 countries, we have built 516 Confucius institutes and over 2,000 Confucius classrooms in secondary schools and primary schools, which play an important role in promoting the learning of Mandarin Chinese language. Now, China has already become the third largest destination for foreign students globally and a top destination in Asia. Finally, we have also seen progress made in the reform of the education sector. Some landmark and flagship education reform programs are now in place, and we have also seen the basic framework for education reform in place. Now we are engaging in full implementation of relevant strategies. For example, take entrance examination reform. For example, progress are made in a number of municipalities, including Beijing and Shanghai. So these are the 5 features over the past 5 years, according to the report to the 19th CPC National Congress. As the socialism with Chinese characteristics enters a new era, the principal contradiction in China now is a contradiction between unbalanced and inadequate development and the ever-growing need of our people for a better life. So an important task for us is to look to the matters relating to unbalanced and inadequate development in the education sector. We will seize the main contradictions, respond to our people's new expectation on education, to put into action the guiding principles of this Congress, and to develop education that our people are satisfied with. Thank you.
Minister Huang, please. Friends from the press, let me give you a brief introduction on civil affairs work. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core attached great importance to people's well-being and civil affairs work and made a series of major policies and plans. Civil affairs departments at all levels studied carefully the thinking for socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era adopted by General Secretary Xi Jinping, and the principle of always put people first in civil affairs, and made vigorous efforts to reform and innovate civil affairs work and focus on strengthening the foundation work of civil affairs and comprehensively implement the decisions made by the Central Committee and the State Council. Important progress has been made in improving people's well-being, especially for those with severe difficulties. First is the effective role of social assistance in meeting people's basic needs. The subsistence system in urban and rural areas achieved full coverage, and the temporary assistance system was comprehensively established. All county-level governments have established the coordinative mechanisms for the living support for people with difficulties, headed by government leaders. Rural subsistence systems are connected with poverty alleviation work. The standard for assistance in urban and rural areas were raised by 59% and 97% respectively, with a total spending of 731.7 billion yuan. Nearly 60,000 subsistence receivers and people with severe difficulties have effective guarantee for their basic living. Second is efficient and orderly treatment of natural disasters. We earnestly implement General Secretary Xi Jinping's remarks featuring the main role of prevention, the combination of prevention, relief, and rescue, and comprehensive effort to improve capacity building in disaster relief. We have comprehensively enhanced our capacity in preventing and in disaster prevention and relief. We launched 117 emergency responses at the national level, issued 45.4 billion yuan in disaster relief funding, helping 350 million person times and relocating 45 million person times affected by disaster. This has promoted the social stability and post-disaster reconstruction in the affected areas. Third is accelerated progress in old age care services. We comprehensively amended and enforced the law for the protection of rights and interests of the elderly, comprehensively opening up the old age service market, improving quality for nursery homes, implementing projects for old age cares, promoting development of old age welfare during the 13th five-year plan period, and adopting a series of major policies, regulations, and laws in the establishment of old age care system. The allowance system for senior citizens with old age, living difficulties, and without living abilities are now spread out. We have now 28,000 old age care institutions with nearly 7 million beds registered in the world. And the community and in-home old age care services now cover all urban communities and over 50 rural communities. Fourth is a better developed system for social benefit and children's protection. The allowance system for people with disabilities in financial difficulties and severe disabilities is now comprehensively established, benefiting over 10 million people with disabilities respectively. We are comprehensively establishing the system for the protection and care for left-behind children in rural areas, enhancing the protection for children with difficulties, and including nearly 500,000 orphans and HIV/AIDS affected children into government support. Fifth is the improved entitlements for military personnel. Servicemen with disabilities, bereaved military families, and retired Red Army veterans now have better entitlements, and we have coordinated the standards for allowance standards for bereaved military families. Better jobs are now provided for retired servicemen, and we are comprehensively encouraging retired military personnel to find jobs and start up businesses on their own. And the lawful rights and interests for entitled groups are now better upheld. Sixth is the rapid development of the endeavor of charity and volunteering. We promulgated and enforced the charity law and voluntary service regulation. Every year there is over 50 billion yuan of social donation. We have a total number of 330,000 registered social workers with enhanced strength for social workers and volunteers. We have now nearly 57 million volunteers and nearly 390,000 voluntary groups. We have also projects like the Warmness in Winter projects. Steady progress has been made in the land-saving adaptive burial and green burial. Steady progress was also made in improving administrative zoning. So that's all for my briefing. Thank you.
Now, Minister Ying. Good morning, friends from the press. I'm very glad to attend today's press conference, and I thank you for your long-term interest in and support to the work of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security. Employment and Social Security has a direct bearing on people's well-being. It has attracted wide social attention. In the report to the 19th CPC National Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping also fully recognized the progress made in the past 5 years. He pointed out that in the past 5 years, employment situation has improved. And here are some of the indicators. First, we have created over 65 million jobs, which means that we have addressed the job needs for over 65 million people, the majority of which are young people. Also, over the 5 years, we have resettled those 25 million laid-off workers. Also, in these 5 years, we have created jobs for the 6.5 million people living in underprivileged conditions. And we have also ensured that at least one person of those families with zero employment are now able to have access to at least a job. We have also resettled nearly 1 million employees in the process of economic restructuring. We have also reallocated 4.7 million rural people who are registered poor in the rural areas. So these are the figures showing progress made in the field of employment in the past 5 years, as mentioned by General Secretary Xi. This 5 years, we have seen the slowdown of economic growth, and it has become a highlight for economic growth, underpinning the overall economic growth in China. In terms of social security's work, General Secretary Xi pointed out that we have basically established a social security network in China. And this is shown in the following 3 aspects. First, we have been improving the overall institutions. In these 5 years, we have set up a consistent healthcare and old age care system for rural and non-working urban residents. We have also reformed the pension system for employees of party and government offices as well as public institutions, unifying relevant pension systems. We have also deepened relevant institutional reforms, in particular offering more convenient conditions to ensure that medical expenses can be settled directly at places where they are incurred. So these have shown progress made. We have also built the world's largest social security network in the world, covering over 900 million people in terms of the elderly care. We have to deduct those population, pre-school age population, which means that we have already ensured that over 90% of the people are covered by old age care. And for the healthcare insurance system, it now covers over 1.3 billion people. To achieve this progress in a country with a population of 1.3 billion, to ensure that the coverage is so wide in terms of old age care and healthcare insurance, this is a progress that is fully recognized by the international community. That was also why the Chinese government has won an outstanding award last year from the international community, fully recognizing what we have achieved in terms of improving the social security system and building a stronger old age care system. This is a hard-won progress even for developed countries, let alone for developing countries. We have improved the basic old age care insurance for employees exceeding 2.3 thousand yuan per month, and 120 RMB yuan for rural workers. Of course, we also face many problems to be tackled. For example, our people still face difficulties in terms of employment, as well as challenges in terms of the social security network. In the years ahead, we will put into practice the guidelines of the report to the 19th CPC Congress to ensure fuller employment and to create better quality jobs. We will also improve relevant systems, provide basic cushion for our people, and to build an appropriately insured and sustainable network. And we will deliver a better job in terms of employment and the social security to ensure that our people will have a better sense of fulfillment. Thank you.
Minister Wang, please. Friends from the press, good morning. Let me give you a concise briefing on China's housing and urban-rural development situation. Since the 18th Party Congress, under the strong leadership of the CPC Steering Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, housing and urban-rural development sector has seen outstanding accomplishments in its reform and growth. And particular progress has been made in ensuring improving people's livelihood. First, outstanding achievements were made in housing support, and the living conditions for around 80 million people in need were upgraded. General Secretary Xi Jinping pointed out that accelerating the development of housing support and housing supply system is an important task in meeting the people's basic need for housing and ensuring that all people have access to housing. Over the past 5 years, vigorous efforts have been made in advancing the renovation of rundown area housing. Over 60 million residents moved into apartment buildings. The supply of public rental housing was greatly increased, accommodating more than 19 million people in need of housing. Housing strain for new citizens were lessened, and the living conditions for urban low-income households were improved substantially. Access to housing is guaranteed for almost all urban households on subsistence allowances and urban low-income families. Second, obvious effects were seen in real estate regulation, and general real estate market remained stable. We uphold the principle of houses are for living in, not for speculation, adopted category-based and city-specific policies, and enforced accountability systems for local governments. Currently, the rise of newly built commercial housing prices in first-tier cities and some popular second-tier cities dropped compared with the same period of last year, while the housing price in third-tier and fourth-tier cities tends to become stable. We are also making rental housing pilot projects in 12 large and medium cities, and the exploration to develop shared ownership housing projects in Beijing and Shanghai was encouraged. We are also accelerating the formulation for long-term real estate development mechanism, and efforts were also made to speed up the legislation for rental housing laws. The real estate management has shown ongoing effects. Third, continued advances were made in urban planning reform, and the transformation in urban development models was stepped up. We earnestly implement General Secretary Xi Jinping's important remarks and instructions on urban planning and advance reform and innovation in urban planning. While approaching the right way, the strategic positioning, spatial layout, and element allocating, we insisted on integrated urban-rural development and delineated urban ecological protection red line and development boundaries on the basis of main function, region, strategy, and system. We encouraged governments to integrate urban plans into one and follow one single blueprint to the very end. We put new development concepts into practice, focused on the implementation of urban plans, and stepped up urban transformation. We fully implement urban design, strengthened the preservation of historical architecture, and pressed ahead with ecological and city rehabilitation. With these efforts, city environment has been improved constantly, and urban public services have been also enhanced. Fourthly, urban development was steadily improved, and urban environment become more suitable for living. Over the past 5 years, we increased 55.4 thousand kilometers of urban roads and 1,600 kilometers of city commute railway length, 458,000 hectares of urban green lands, and the treatment ratio for urban sewage reached 92.5%, which was up by 7 percentage points. 1,600 kilometers of sewer corridors were established in our urban sewer network. So it can be said that in housing and rural-urban development, there are also many problems and difficulties. In particular, people are following very closely the housing support for the people. In the next step, we will act in line with General Secretary Xi Jinping's important instruction in the report to the 19th National Congress of the CPC. In particular, General Secretary Xi Jinping's new thoughts on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era will continue to make new contribution to the realization of the Chinese dream of great national renewal.
Minister Li, good morning, friends from the press. Thank you for your interest in China's medicine and healthcare development. There's no moderately prosperous society without a healthy population. Since the 18th National Congress of the CPC, the Central Party leadership, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, has set up a Healthy China initiative with a people-centered approach and outlined the significance, strategies, and targets for this initiative. This has opened a new journey for Healthy China. Thanks to our efforts over the past 5 years, we have seen fast progress in people's health and healthcare services, as outlined by President Xi in his report. Here are some of the highlights. First, we have made big progress in the reform of the medicine healthcare system. We have laid the groundwork for building a distinctively Chinese system for providing basic healthcare. We have built a tiered medical services system with preferential treatment given to primary level hospitals. 80% of the population can have access to clinics within 15 minutes. The contracted family doctor service covers 430 million people. And now people can have high standard medical services close to their home thanks to the development of medical treatment partnership systems, including medical consortium and telemedicine. 82.5% of the treatment diagnosis can be done within the counties. We have also abolished the old mechanism of funding hospitals with profits from overpriced drugs, which has been in place for 6 decades. Now, the new operation system is more non-profit, proactive, and sustainable. Over 57% of the hospitals are now privately run, and we are also addressing problems relating to the shortage of drugs, in particular those low-cost drugs and children's drugs. We have also set up a basic medical care system, including assistance for major diseases and chronic diseases as well. We are also improving the system within which medical expenses can be settled off-site. We are also reducing the out-of-pocket health payment. It dropped from 40.4% in 2008 to 30%, lowest level in 2 decades. Second, new progress was made in the overall public health system. We are paying more attention to prevention and expanded the service of basic public health system for 14 categories. The infectious rate of major infectious diseases went down. We are implementing the policy of allowing all couples to have 2 children, increasing services, in particular in the obstetric and pediatric sectors, and providing all entire process medical care services. For childbirth, we have significantly reduced both maternal fatality rate and infant fatality rate, achieving the WHO target ahead of schedule. We are building a healthy Silk Road, and we have won the battle of assisting African countries in fighting Ebola without any infection among our medical staff, playing the role of a responsible major country. Thirdly, we have significantly improved the quality of health services. We have launched campaigns in the past 3 years, improved the overall supply quality and security of blood. We have launched an antimicrobial resistance national action and significantly reduced the use of antibiotics. We are bringing out the important role of both Chinese medicine and Western medicine. We have made breakthroughs in certain key technologies, achieved big results in improving the overall treatment and diagnosis services. We have treated 3.6 million patients in a targeted manner, depending on their specific conditions and diseases. For the past 5 years, we have seen the biggest input in the health industry, which ensured the rapid progress in this sector and more benefits to our people. The international community also recognized China as a country that has made the fastest development in terms of improving its overall health sector. This is achieved thanks to the leadership of General Secretary Xi as the core of the CPC Central Committee. It is also thanks to the guidance of the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era. It is also thanks to our firm commitment to the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics. President Xi pointed out in his report that a healthy population is a key mark of a prosperous nation and a strong country. We will continue to promote the Healthy China initiative. We will be guided by the thought of Chinese socialism in the new era. Bear in mind our mission and our aspiration, and provide around-the-clock services to our people so that the entire Chinese population will embrace a new era of socialism with Chinese characteristics in a more healthier manner. Thank you. Now the floor is open for questions. Please identify yourself before raising your questions. Thank you.
人民网记者提问，我的问题是提给黄部长的。在打赢脱贫攻坚战中，民政部门在健全社会救助保障体系、发挥兜底保障作用方面开展了哪些工作？效果如何？谢谢。
I'm with the people.com.cn. My question goes to Minister Huang. In the battle against poverty, what have been done by the civil affairs departments in terms of building up social assistance systems and ensuring help to those in need? And what are the achievements made in this regard? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I would be more than happy to answer this question. Social assistance is the last safety net for people's well-being and for poverty alleviation. To make this safety net more closely knit is an important mission of civil affairs departments and an important responsibility in our poverty alleviation work. Since 18th Party Congress, under the strong leadership of Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, we have done important work in mainly 3 areas. First is to comprehensively improve the system of assistance support. The State Council promulgated the temporary methods for social assistance, which laid out the 8+1 social assistance system. We comprehensively established the temporary assistance system and spread out the assistance for major and serious diseases. We coordinate the assistance and support system for people in severe difficulties in rural and urban areas. We advance the effective connection between assistance system and poverty alleviation policies. We comprehensively establish the allowance system for people with disabilities for their living costs and people with severe difficulties. We strengthen the support for the care and protection for left-behind children in rural areas and children in severe difficulties. We advance the reform for the system and institutions for disaster relief. We encourage county-level governments to comprehensively establish the coordinative mechanism for the support for people in difficulties. By improving such policies and measures, we are further enhancing the support network for people in severe need to meet their basic needs. Second is to steadily improve the level of assistance and support. The subsistence standard in urban and rural areas in China have been growing by 10.7% and 16% respectively, which means in urban areas it's 10.7% annually, and in rural areas it's 16% annually on average. The collective and individual support standard for people in severe difficulties in rural areas have grown by 13.7% and 14.7% respectively. The rural subsistence standard, which is 4,079 yuan per year, is already higher than the national poverty line, which is 2,952 yuan per year. The number of counties with subsistence standard lower than the poverty standard has dropped from 1,521 in 2015 to 72 currently, which means there are still 72 counties where the subsistence level is lower than the national poverty line. Governments at all levels spent over 180 billion yuan in 2012 for social assistance. Now the number is nearly 250 billion yuan in 2016. In this year, we have also significantly raised the central assistance standard for the emergency assistance during major natural disasters, the transitional living cost, and the subsidy for damaged houses. Third, we kept improving the management for assistance and support. We worked with relevant departments to carry out the information cross-checking for registered vehicles, bank deposits, securities and assets, and houses to improve the accuracy for the identification of assistance receivers to make our assistance more targeted and more accurate. At neighborhood, village, and township levels, we established one-stop windows for the convenience of the people. We strengthened the assessment for performance, funding monitoring, and inspection for social assistance, imposed stringent punishment for violations against the lawful rights and interests of the people, especially the people with severe difficulties, to ensure fairness and equity in our social assistance work. In the next step, we will earnestly implement the spirit of the 19th National Congress of the CPC, acting in line with the Central Committee's principle of meeting the basic line, highlighting focuses and meeting our preset goals. We will continue to improve our management levels and better with the network of social assistance and have a better connection between social assistance and poverty alleviation, and to better meet people's living needs. Thank you.
感谢主持人。中国日报和中国日报网记者提问。那么我的问题是提给尹部长的。您刚才也说了呢，在过去几年当中，中国经济的这个增速有所放缓，但是我们的劳动力的总量压力还是比较大的。那么请问我们是怎么做到在这个就业的工作当中保持总体稳定的？第二个问题是，请问19大报告对于今后的一个时期， 就业工作做了哪些新的要求？谢谢。
I'm with China Daily. My question goes to Minister Ying of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security. As you said in the opening remarks, the Chinese economic growth rate has been moderated in recent years, while at the same time, every year we are seeing a big number of newcomers joining the labor force. So what has been the key to the maintenance of overall stability in employment, and what are the new tasks or requirements laid out in the report to the 19th Party Congress?
Well, thank you for your interest in employment. In my opening remarks, I have mentioned that over the past 5 years, China has maintained overall stability in terms of employment. And every year, we have been increasing over 13 million urban jobs. Both the surveyed and registered unemployment rate in the urban areas stood at a low level. Considering that economic growth has been slowing down, the total amount of newcomers in the labor market is still huge, and economic restructuring is facing heavier tasks. This is a hard-won achievement. Such progress has been able to underpin China's economic growth. The following are the main factors contributing to the progress that we have made. First, the Central Party leadership attaches great importance to the work of employment. President Xi pointed out clearly that employment is an eternal endeavor that affects the well-being of millions of households. This is an endeavor that we must focus on at all times. General Secretary Xi also inspected relevant work on employment for many times. We are implementing the Central Party strategy and urging the departments at all levels to seriously put into practice the overall strategy of the central government. Secondly, the Chinese economy has maintained a steady and healthy growth. Indeed, the growth speed of the economy has moderated somewhat, but it is still a medium to high growth rate. This has created a favorable environment for job creation, which means the precondition for job creation is still there. In addition, in the process of economic growth, China has also seen improvement or changes in its economic structure. In particular, the service sector has been significantly increased in terms of its proportion in the overall economy, contributing significantly to employment. In the 12th five-year period of time, with each 1 percentage point of economic growth, it contributes to 1.5 million jobs. In the 13th five-year plan period, each 1% of economic growth contributes to 1.8 million jobs. That is because the service sector contributes more to job creation compared with the industrial and agricultural sectors. Thirdly, reform in China has brought new dividends. Over the past 5 years, the government has been advocating streamlining administration, improving services. This helped improve the threshold for job creation. In particular, thanks to the reform of the business registration system, we have seen as many as 116,000 new business entities created every day, which was unimaginable in the past. This contributed greatly to employment. Fourthly, we have put in place a proactive employment policy. This is what we have been doing over the past few years, and through practice, we have also been improving relevant policies, making them more effective in contributing to job creation and encouraging business startups. The government has also put in place many preferential policies. In China, every year, the government expenditure supporting employment or business startups amounts to hundreds of billions of RMB yuan each year, and a significant amount of which comes from the central government. Finally, the large number of workforce has been actively involving in contributing to employment. Without their contribution, we cannot achieve what we have done. We have been implementing a proactive job creation policy. In the years ahead, we will act in line with the policies outlined in the report to 19th CPC Congress, which means that we need to improve not only the quantity, but also the quality of jobs. These are what we will be doing. First, we will continue to give top priority to employment and to advocate a proactive job policy. We will also combine or better balance the job creation policy with China's economic, financial, and other policies. In the process of economic growth, we will encourage more jobs, in particular higher quality jobs. Second, we will launch in a large-scale vocational and skills training to improve the capability of the workforce as well as their ability to transfer to other jobs. We will face two main contradictions in the future. First, the total amount is still exerting a heavy pressure on us. We will work to build a moderately prosperous society in all respects in the next few years, and every year we will need to create over 15 million urban jobs every year. For these 15 million newcomers to the labor market, the majority of them are young students or college graduates. We know that the new college graduates will exceed 8 million next year, and this will stay true for a few years to come. We will also create jobs for those graduates from secondary vocational schools, as well as those graduates from secondary schools who choose not to go to universities or colleges. So this is heavy pressure on us in terms of the total amount. Secondly, the structural problem is still there. Both the employers and the job seekers are facing problems. In terms of the job seekers, including the college graduates, they want to find a high-quality job. The employers also face problems because, in particular, those frontline labor in the construction sectors. Well, to address these problems, we need to improve the overall competence of the workforce by improving the overall vocational and skills training programs. We'll also encourage business startups to facilitate employment. Over the past few years, we have seen a large number of college graduates, migrant workers, returnees from overseas to engage in starting their own businesses, which helped magnify the effect of job creation. We are providing preferential policies to them in terms of financing as well as business as well as offices. Fourthly, we will uphold the rights and interests of the laborers, in particular their equal access to jobs. As the report pointed out, we need to remove those bottlenecks or barriers that block labor mobility and ensure that all the people can ensure that their potential is brought out through hard work. So this is a principle that we will adhere to in employment. Finally, we will offer high-quality public employment services, in particular those services based on internet, to ensure that all the people who are willing to enter the labor market will have access to government assistance and support in such a public employment service system. So all in all, employment in the years ahead will face challenges. However, we are confident that in the process of building a moderately prosperous society, in all respects, we will maintain employment stability to offer support to China's economic and social development. On the other hand, help ensure basic social harmony and stability. Thank you.
China 中央人民广播电台记者，我这个问题呢是提给陈部长的。我们都知道，过去5年呢，整个中国教育的发展是非常飞速的。那么从微观来看呢，可能我周围的同学很多人到了婚育年龄，很多人的孩子要上幼儿园了，开始为入园怎么能上一个好幼儿园着急。那可能这样的焦虑会一直维持到他的全学段，甚至一直到高等教育。那么从宏观来看呢，我又看到这样一组数据，是说中国的教育现在在全世界达到了一个中等偏上的水平。那么您怎么看这样一个定位？另外呢，就是为了让更多的老百姓的孩子能够上好学，那教育部在未来有怎样的努力？谢谢。
With China National Radio, my question goes to Minister Chen of Education. In the past 5 years, education in China has enjoyed strong development, yet I still find many of my friends and colleagues worrying about the schooling of their children. While at the same time, I have also seen that internationally, China has reached medium-high level in terms of development of education. What does this mean for the general public, and what will the Ministry of Education do to further meet people's expectations about better education for their children?
Thank you for your question, and I think you have seized the point which I wish to share with you. As I said previously, over the past 5 years, we have seen education making big progress in China. We have seen some all-round progress, all-round systemic progress being made, contributing to historical achievements. So China has achieved medium to high level in the world in terms of education. This means that we now have a bigger size, a stronger structure, a higher ranking, and a better quality. A bigger size. Each year we have about 260 million students. If we add the school-age children, that is 350 million, which is about 30 to 40 million more than the entire population of the United States. This is the big size, as I have talked about. The stronger structure. We have made big progress in restructuring the educational system with better layouts regionally and equity and quality. Better quality. we have a better capability of training human resources. We are delivering more achievements in terms of education-related science and research. Higher ranking. Globally speaking, education in China is now medium to high level. In terms of disciplines, some disciplines is already world-class, and some universities in China have already seen their overall ranking moving up globally. In 2016, the world media may have discovered that out of nowhere, the Chinese universities have seen their ranking moving upwards significantly. That was a result of years of endeavor in improving its education. So this is what we have achieved over the past few years. Having said that, I do not mean that education in China can fully meet people's needs. In the past, people want to have access to education. Now, people want to have access to quality education. So that is also a result of changing principal contradictions outlined by the report to the 19th CPC Congress. You mentioned that your colleagues are worrying about their children's access to kindergartens and high cost. And in the stage of compulsory education, people want to ensure that their students can go, that their children can go to quality schools. So they are choosing schools on a selective basis. Parents also want their children to have access to good secondary schools, including primary and senior ones. For those colleges and university entrance, students want to select good disciplines and go to better universities. So how to address these problems? According to the guidelines of the report to the 19th CPC Congress, the overall strategy is that we will improve education modernization and to ensure that our people are satisfied with our education. And in terms of the roadmap, we will develop well-rounded education in China, promote equity and quality, equitable and quality education, and to ensure that our young people, the young students, can enjoy well-rounded development and be ready to take on the tasks. We will give more favorable policies to the rural areas, to the underprivileged regions, as well as to those people from poor families. We will give top priority to education. Second, we will also seek balanced development for education between urban and rural areas. Thirdly, we'll improve the vocational educational system and to combine the endeavors of the vocational education and ordinary education. We will also ensure that more students have access to higher education to help us avoid the middle-income gap. Fifthly, we will advocate an atmosphere that respects the teacher. And number 6, we will also improve the assistance system to ensure that no student is left behind simply because they are from a poor family. And finally, we will build a lifelong learning education system and build a country good at learning and improve the overall competence of the Chinese people. So this is the overall structure for the work that we are going to do. If we have implemented these policies, we will be delivering true benefits to our people. So the benefits include the following. By 2020, the preschool education, a gross enrollment rate of preschool education will reach 85% by 2020, compared with 77% at this stage. And the non-profit kindergartens will account for 86% of the total by 2020. Second, in terms of compulsory education, we will seek balanced development, avoid the selective entrance to primary schools, and to control the size of classes. And we will also reduce the burden of primary school students. In particular, see to it that their off-campus burden will no longer be increased. In the senior secondary stage, we are also launching a battle. By 2020, the gross enrollment rate will be higher than 90%. And by 2020, the gross enrollment rate of colleges or universities will reach 50% instead of 42% at this stage. That will mean that the access to senior secondary education will be universally available. We will also improve the overall competence and the skills of the teachers, which is very important for the education on the next generation. Therefore, we will look into and put in place some guiding principles as well as supporting policies to improve the overall competence of the teachers and to further invigorate them in better doing their jobs. So these are the specific policies to implement the guiding principles of the report. Thank you.
谢谢，我是中央电视台中国国际电视台的记者。我们看到在19大报告当中啊，说到保障和改善民生啊，有一句话就是要幼有所育，学有所教，老有所得，病有所医，老有所养，住有所居，弱有所扶。那么应该说这句话跟台上的几位部长都有关系哈，也关系到我们民生的方方面面。不知道在各位部长看来啊，在这几方面最难啃的硬骨头分别是什么？另外一个，我们也看到在19大报告当中，还是提出了有多项具体的民生的目标。那么这些目标当中啊，有哪些目标是短期内就可以变成现实的？另外，对于我们老百姓来说，还有哪一些民生红包是现在就可以期待的？谢谢。
With CCTV and CGTN, we have seen in the 19th Party Congress report a sentence, I quote, "We should make steady progress in ensuring people's access to childcare, education, employment, medical services, elderly care, housing, and social assistance," unquote. And this sentence, I believe, has something to do with all the 5 ministers. Could you please tell us what will be the most difficult tasks in these areas? What progress or what specific achievements can people expect in the improvement of their living standards in the coming years? Thank you.
Well, to begin with, I think your question is also concerned with my department. Access to preschool education and to schools. So here are some of the thornier issues that I face with. The first one, we will try to ensure that the gross enrollment rate of 3-year preschool education will reach 85%, and over 80% of the kindergartens will be non-profit. So this will be a thorny issue for us. Even if we achieve these two targets, the poor access to preschool education and the heavy cost is still something that we have to tackle with, because we now allow all couples to have 2 children, which means that the population will grow by an additional 3 million each year. The second most thorny issue is to ensure that no students will become a dropout at the compulsory education stage. This is a difficult task, in particular in the poor areas as well as areas inhabited by ethnic minorities, because for some of the students there, they have voluntarily become a dropout. Therefore, we must ensure that the students there have the interest in continuing their education, and to move the coverage ratio of compulsory education from 92% to 95%. By 2020, we will also establish a college entrance examination system with Chinese characteristics. We have already been launching some pilot projects in Shanghai, Beijing, Zhejiang. Some provinces will follow suit, and that will also require more policies and measures in terms of education. So these are the 3 most thorny issues for me. On access to medical services and how to tackle this problem, according to the report to the 19th CPC National Congress, there have been some specific requirements on launching a Healthy China initiative. In order to implement this strategy, we need to tackle the following. The main problem is to address those health-related issues as a result of the changing principal contradiction. Put it another way, our people are having new needs and aspirations for health services. And on the other hand, the support or supply of medical services is still inadequate or unbalanced. So there is still contradiction between these 2 aspects. As you know, the majority of resources are focused in economically advanced regions in China and major cities. We have to tackle such an imbalance by deepening the reform of the medicine and healthcare system, establish a tiered system as well as a new partnership system of medical institutions to ensure that more resources will go to primary level clinics or hospitals, and to ensure that more resources will be available in those relatively backward areas. We will continue to develop partnership programs and pairing projects to support those poor areas as well as areas inhabited by ethnic minorities, give more support to assisting the Xinjiang and other inland areas. And so far, we have already covered 820 poor counties through such partnership programs. We will also educate and train those medical professionals as well as college students for those underdeveloped areas, so as to enlarge the pool of human resources in the medical sector in these areas. We will also support them through reform measures so that those people will stay in those areas and be willing to provide better medical services to people there. So we have also prepared some benefits to deliver to our people. We will continue to increase input to well-being and to increase the number of contracted doctors contracted family doctors. Now, the coverage is 430 million. We will try to see that number go up and try to ensure that those families with chronic disease patients and elderly people will see their needs better taken care of. We will also promote the development of appointment treatment, high-quality nursing care, and ambulatory surgery. We will build a well-woven network for Medicare services. We will also provide more convenience in terms of settling off-site medical expenses. We will also try to provide better services to the treatment of a growing number of major diseases. We will also tackle head-on those problems relating to these poor regions, as well as those families who have fallen back to poverty because of high medical expenses. We will try to ensure that our people are healthier. And in particular, we will provide better maternal and infant healthcare services. We will shore up weak links, in particular those obstetrical as well as pediatrical services. And these are some of the weak links that we will try to make up for. We'll also mobilize resources at the primary levels, further innovate the medical care system, and to bring more benefits to our people in the medical sector.
Let me answer the question from the perspective of old age care. Old age care is the biggest aspiration for all senior citizens. China has already entered the stage of fast growth of population aging. Up until 2016, the population of people over 60 has exceeded 230 million, accounting for 16.7%. Those over 65 years old have reached the number of 150 million, accounting for 10.8% of the whole population. In the time to come, the size of senior citizens will continue to grow at a faster speed, and the peak will last for a long time. Therefore, people will be following very closely the issue of old age care. In terms of social security, I believe there are two thorny issues or difficulties. First, how to ensure that all people have access to old age care security. That is to say, we need to widen the coverage of our old age care. The ratio is now over 90%, but China has a large population. There are nearly 100 million people who still have not participated in the old age care social security scheme. This is already the size of a big country in the world. So how can we ensure full coverage? Among these 100 million people, there are three categories. First is those with flexible employment. Second is the people in new business forms, because we know that new business forms are now developing very rapidly in China, including the internet, express delivery, and other industries. Third is employees in small and medium-sized enterprises, especially migrant workers. Those three categories of people are still not yet enrolled in our old age scheme or pension scheme. So when they reach a certain age, they will lack the basic social security assistance. So how can we ensure that they are enrolled in our scheme? That is a major task to be resolved. Second is the sustainability of pension funds. In the preliminary stage of our institutional building, that is, say, in the 1990s, the ratio of pension scheme is 5 to 1, that is 5 people support 1 retired person. However, as our population kept aging, this ratio has dropped to 2.8 to 1, which means 2.8 people support 1 retired person. Looking into the future, the ratio will continue to drop. This means higher pressure for the payment and the sustainability of our pension funds. Therefore, we must ensure the system more sustainable. So this is the biggest thorny issues of mine. Do we have tools to resolve them? Yes, we do. From the third plenum of the 18th CPC National Committee, we have started reforming the pension system. We have a master plan and a top-level plan and design. We are now implementing that in a step-by-step manner. The first issue is that, which is included in the 19th National Congress report, we need to ensure the full coverage of our pension scheme. And we must ensure the registration of all people who have not yet enrolled in the coverage, so that we will be able to mobilize all those who have not yet enrolled to participate in this scheme. Second is to ensure the sustainability of pension funds. We have multiple measures in this regard. First, which is also included in the report to the 19th Party Congress, we need to realize the national coordination of pension scheme as quickly as possible. Next year, we will take the first step, that is to implement the central reallocation of pension funds to ensure that in different regions there will be a balanced payment of pension funds. Because China is a large country, there is an imbalanced development in different regions. Therefore, population are aged to different levels in different regions. For example, in the province of Heilongjiang, it is the most difficult province in terms of pension fund. The ratio is 1.3 to 1, while in Guangdong province, with the highest ratio, it is 9 to 1. After the national coordination plan, we will ensure that all provinces will help each other out. In terms of our current pension scheme and funds, we have surplus of over 4 trillion yuan. Therefore, it is not problematic at all, but there is indeed imbalance between different provinces. Therefore, we need to implement the report to the 19th Party Congress and take the first step. Second is the operation of pension funds. Decision has already been made by the State Council. 8 provinces have entrusted pension foundations to operate the pension funds. So we need to ensure the preservation and creation of added value for pension funds. Third is the complementation to social security funds by state-owned assets to ensure the pool will keep growing. So that are the measures that we will take. In the long term, we will have more measures. We will adopt them as they become well developed, so that our pension system and old age care system will be better developed to meet the basic needs for all senior citizens. Thank you.
行，第二排那位女士，对，好。
谢谢主持人，我是凤凰卫视、凤凰网的记者。我这个问题想问给住建部的王部长。从去年930以来呢，我们也可以看到关于楼市的调控政策频出。那么到目前为止呢，整个全国的楼市已经出现了明显的降温。请问您怎么看当前的房地产市场的形势？那么下一步针对房地产有哪些长效的机制？谢谢。
With Phoenix TV and its affiliated website, ever since the 30th September last year, much has been done to regulate the real estate market. And nationwide, the housing market has been cooling down noticeably. This question goes to Minister Wang of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. What is your take of the current state of the housing market, and what will be done to build a long-term mechanism for the real estate sector?
这个问题呢，刚才我在简要介绍的时候，
Well, in my opening remarks, I had already given some introduction to this issue. Since October last year, we acted in line with the plan of the Party Central Committee and State Council and worked with relevant departments to apply categorized and city-specific measures. And we have taken targeted measures to implement the accountability system of local governments. It has to be said that our efforts have been effective in containing speculation in real estate market and meeting the reasonable needs for housing. Currently, the real estate market is basically stable and sound. To be more specific, first, as you already mentioned, the commercial housing sales growth speed is steadily dropping. The size of commercial housing sales growth dropped from 25.1% earlier this year to 10.3% from January to September, in which commercial residential housing dropped from 23.7% to 7.6%. Second, the excessive rising trend of prices of housing is effectively contained. In August, according to statistics, the newly built commercial residential housing price grew slower for 11 consecutive months. In second-tier cities, it has dropped for 9 consecutive months. In third-tier cities, it dropped 0.3 percentage points. In the 16 popular cities that we follow closely, the month-to-month growth rate mostly dropped. In some cities, they remained stable, and the year-on-year growth speed all dropped. We estimate that in the fourth quarter of this year, the real estate market in China will continue the trend of dropping growth speed and stable transaction size. So we will be able to maintain the steady trend that we currently see. In the next step, we will continue to stay committed to our management goals and intensity to ensure continuity and stability of our policies. In particular, we will follow the principle laid out by General Secretary, that is, houses are for living in, not for speculation. We will accelerate the building of multi-source supply, multi-channel support, and equal importance to purchasing and renting. Regarding the long-term mechanism, on the 19th, at the open day for the delegation for central ministries, I already elaborate our position. I will not repeat them. Thank you.
对不起，那个我给联合早报的记者啊。好。
谢谢主持人。您好，我是新加坡联合早报的记者。我这边那个问题是，习主席在这个19大报告里面勾勒出了这个第2个100年目标，然后就说了2049年要实现怎么样的中国。想请各位部长就是设想一下，在你们各自负责的领域，目前负责的领域和具体领域，教育啊、住房，到了2049年会出现一个怎么样的一个情况？谢谢。
With 联合早报 of Singapore, we have heard in President Xi Jinping's 19th Party Congress report visions for the 2 centenary goals of China and what development achievements will China make by 2049. My question goes to all the 5 ministers. In your specific fields of responsibilities, what progress will be made by that time?
你可以讲啊，黄部长讲还是陈部长讲？他点名了。那先陈部长讲吧。陈部长就准备好。好，2049年的。我先说。你先说吧，我们2位部长，上2位部长先。
这个你提出的这个问题啊，很有意思。
This is a very interesting question.
展望未来是一门艺术。
To look ahead is
当然
a form of
它
art.
也能展现我们的信心
To
和预期。
look ahead,
就教育来说呀，
we will have
2049年建国
some
有周年的时候
expectations and confidence.
会是个什么样子呢？
So what will be China's education like in the year
我心
2049
目中的
as the country
2049
celebrates
年的
its
中国教
centenary?
育，
So this is a
恐
topic
怕有这么几
concerning
个特征。
education in my mind by the year 2049. Here will be some of the features. First,
中国
by
教育
2049,
将稳稳地
China's
立于世
education
界教育的中心，
will steadily
引
stand
领
at
世
the
界教育
center
发展的潮流。
of the world and lead the tide of
这是什么意思呢？
education development in the
就是
world.
说，到那个时候，
This means that
中国的
by
标准将成为
2049,
世界的标准。
China's standards will be world
这是我
standard.
想的一个想法。
So this is
就是
my prediction.
到那个时候，
Second,
中国将成为
by 2049,
世界上人们最向往
China will be
留学
the most favorable
将有
destination for overseas students in the world.
各国愿意和中华文化
There'll
实
be
现交
a
流
growing
融合
number of people who are willing to integrate and
交流
exchange
中国
with
发
the
展
Chinese traditional
经验
culture
这样
and
的
to
有知识
exchange
学生
experience
老师
with
来
China,
中
and that
国
also
交流
include
在
teachers
交流融合
and
中
scholars.
实现共同
In the
进步
process of exchange and sharing, we will
我还想
achieve
到那个时候
common development.
世界教育发展的规
I
则
also imagine that by the year 2049,
有更大的
China will have a bigger say in terms of the education rules making in the world. We will
中国智慧
make our utmost
第四
efforts
点
to contribute
中国版的教
our
材
share to rules making
汉语
and to offer a
发
Chinese
音的教材
option.
能够走向
Fourthly,
世界，
the
这就是我
Chinese
心目中的
Mandarin language
2049
textbooks
对于
will be
我们
available
国家
throughout the
当
world.
时的人民都能够使
And I
自己的
Also
受教育权益得
imagine
到完
that
全的维护
people's rights
受
and
教育的
interests
这个美好
of
需求
access
都
to
能够得
education
到
and their
满足
will be protected and their
能够向着
aspiration
自由而全面发展的
to
目标迈进
education will be
这就是我
met. They will be able
我
to
的想法
develop them fully. So that is my prediction
一流的教育啊。
for the year 2049. Minister Wang.
你这个问题也是我们下一步要
This question is also what we need to very study and formulate our plans in the next
我们现在
step.
的这个我个人的想法，
My personal view is that
到本世纪中叶
by
建设社会
the
主义
middle
的
of
发展
this century, we will build
至少我们
a
要实
strong
现
and
这个
modern
我们的
socialist
居
country.
住环境、居住条件
Our housing environment and housing
当时的
conditions will
世界
at
的
least
最先进的水平
reach the most
也
advanced
就是说
standard
要
in
实
the
现我
world.
们
That is
群
to
众
say,
也实现报告中提出的
we need
叫
to
做住有所居，
meet
这
the
只是一个
living
基本的
needs
条
of
件
all
不
people.
光要
This
住有
is
所
only
居
a basic
而且要
requirement.
生活在一个美丽的环境里去，也就是说
We
要建
need to
成
not
美丽
only
中国
meet all the basic
同时
needs,
呢
but also
还要
build
使
a
我们的
beautiful
这个
environment
居住
for China. That
的
is a
设施
beautiful
设
China.
备
At the same
能够
time,
更
the
方便
facilities
更
and
齐全
infrastructure of housing in
让我们
China
的
will be
老百姓呢
better
生活
developed
得更
so
幸
that
福
our people
获得更
have
强
better lives
谢谢。
and happier lives.
我们
Thank
再
you.
安排2个提问吧。好好，第3排，对。
谢谢主持人，我是澎湃新闻记者。我的问题是提给李斌主任的。对老百姓而言，他们最关心的莫过于改革的实际效果到底是怎么样。 那么，请问国家近些年重点推进的公立医院综合改革，给人民群众看病就医带来哪些实实在在的好处？谢谢。
With the paper, my question goes to Minister Li from the National Health and Family Planning Commission. For the general public, they are interested first and foremost in whether the reform can deliver real benefits to their lives. The reform of public hospitals has been carried out for several years. How does that help to give people better access to medical and healthcare services?
谢谢这位记者。
Thank you.
人民对美好生活的向往
People's aspiration for a better life is our goal.
就是从人民群众的角度
So this
看我们的改革。
is a question from the
那
perspective
么
of
人民健
people.
康呢，是美好生活的基础和重要
The
标志。
public health and
所
the
以从这个
important
意义上
mark
讲，医疗
for a
卫生
better
健
life.
康
So in this
既
sense,
是重大的民生，
healthcare and medical
也是我们
services
践行
is not only an
人民
issue
为中心
concerning
这个发
people's
展思想的
well-being,
一个政治责
but
任。
also a political
我们推进改
responsibility for
革
us
正是
to
从这样一个
advocate
出发
and
点
implement
和
a people-centered governance
来
approach.
公立医院的改
So
革
this
呢
is the
作为
perspective
我们
based
解
on
决
which
好人民
that
群
we
众
have
的
been
看病就医问
advancing
题
the
一个关
reform
键环节。
of public hospitals in order
坚持呢
to provide
聚焦
easier
能力
access to our
坚持
people.
问题导向
So we are tackling
可以
those
说通过
problems
深化
head
改
on
革取
and
得
have been
5个持续的
achieved
这样
the
的一个
following
积极成效。一是呢
progress
综
in
合服务
deepening
能力
reform. First,
实
we
现
have
增强
enhanced the
医疗
comprehensive
资
service
源明
capability.
显增加了。
We have increased
到
medical resources.
2016年底
By the end of
我国的医疗
2016,
卫生机构
there
发
were
展到
over
98万个。
980,000 medical and healthcare institutions in China with 11 million
那么和
medical
18大以
staff.
前比，就18大以来啊，每千人的职业助理医师的数
Compared with
从
the
1.8
18th National
增长到
Congress,
2.3人。
the number of licensed doctors or assistants increased from 1.8 per thousand to 2.3 per thousand, and the number of registered nurses went up from 1.5 per thousand to 2.5 thousand, and hospital beds increased from 3.6 per thousand to 5.4 per thousand. This means progress being made in basic healthcare resources. We have also built a primary level medical care service network covering both the urban and rural areas. People have better access to medical care services. In the year 2016, there were 7.9 billion service amount in the hospitals and the clinics in China. That is a very impressive figure. It also shows that people have more convenient access to medical services. Over 55% of the visits were to those primary level medical institutions. We are shoring up weak links and allocating more resources to the primary level clinics. Over 90% of the public hospitals in China are now involved in various forms of partnerships between medical institutions. Over 6,800 public hospitals have developed telemedicine services. Now, hospitals in Beijing can provide distant medical services for patients in Mongolia. We have also increased supplies in human resources in the obstetric, pediatric, GP, rehabilitation, and nursing services. And we have also increased service capabilities at the primary level and in remote regions. All this has laid a solid foundation for building a quality and efficient healthcare service system. Second, we have reduced the burden on the population. The participation in basic medical insurance stood above 95%, with the proportion of reimbursement further increased. We have increased the consistency between these basic medical care insurance system with major disease insurance, medical assistance, and emergency assistance of major diseases, as well as commercial insurances. By the September this year, all public hospitals have abolished drug markups, and we have also reduced the price of consumptive materials and lower the costs of medical checkups, reformed the methods for pay-ups, and increased government expenditure. We have curbed the trend of rising medical care expenditure. Take Beijing, for example. Since the launch of reform of separating the clinic services and pharmacy services, the increase of medical expenditure was less than 2%. So the people have directly benefited from such reforms. Illness is an important reason that has resulted in the fact that some families have fallen back to poverty. Therefore, we have adopted tailored approaches, including treating those with major diseases, providing contracted services to those chronic diseases patients, and offering insurances to those catastrophic diseases. We have also established a basic cushion to ensure that a health-related issue will not become a stumbling block for our people to become moderately prosperous. Thirdly, we have put in place a number of policies to deliver benefits and convenience to our people. We are trying whatever we can to improve the convenience of our people to medical services, or municipal level hospitals are providing treatment based on appointment and high quality nursing services. More than half of the municipal level hospitals now offer a day surgery, and for 80% of the hospitals, they recognize each other's medical results. Some hospitals have also developed smart clinic services and drug prescription services, shortening the waiting time for the patients. They have also relied on new technologies such as cloud computing and big data, making it more convenient for the patients based on the better use of information technology. We have also adopted lengthy prescriptions and extended prescriptions to encourage more hospital visits to go to those primary level medical institutions and alleviating the burden of major hospitals. Fourthly, we have improved the standards and the systems of medical care services. We are improving the quality control network of medical services, formulating over 1,200 clinical pathways covering major diseases. And these pathways are now being implemented in nearly 7,000 hospitals. We have improved the use of medicines. The use of antibiotics went down by nearly 50%. Both the capability and the standards of medical services are increasing. Now, many county-level hospitals can now engage in brain tumor surgeries and cervical spine diseases surgeries. So they are seeing more hospital visits. And number 5, people's overall health conditions have been improved. So all this progress that we have made in the past 5 years in a sustainable way, and this shows that reform is an ongoing process. We have removed the old systems, and at the same time, we need to consolidate and improve the new mechanisms, and it will take time. As the medical services improves, people still have their needs, and there are also areas that they are not satisfied with. We are still trying to tackle the principal contradiction of inadequate and unbalanced medical services development. We also have short and weak links in terms of medical talents in the poor areas and remote areas. Therefore, we need to continue to advance healthcare reforms. We will never be satisfied with ourselves, and we will seriously implement the guiding principles outlined by the 19th National Congress on promoting a healthy China initiative. We will further improve the health of the population, continue to deepen reform, and build a basic healthcare system with Chinese characteristics. We will continue to focus on ensuring that people will have a stronger sense of benefit and a sense of fulfillment, and we will try to provide high quality and high standard services to our people, and to provide more reassured, comfortable, and careful services to our people.
再一个，那行吧，就给第二排。他从第一个问题到现在一直在举手，啊。
谢谢主持人，我是来自中国教育电视台、中国教育网络电视台的记者。那有一个问题呢，我想问一下陈宝生部长。那么在会议的一开始，您介绍了说我国的教育体制已经形成了4梁8柱的改革方案已经基本形成了。教育改革呢是进入了全面施工、内部装修的一个阶段哈。那我们知道，今年的9月24号，中共中央办公厅、国务院印发了关于深化教育体制机制改革的意见。其实我们大家都知道，这个教育改革的推进是一个难度很大的一个事情。那么下一步，我们关于这个教育体制机制改革方面有什么样的考虑，将出台一个什么样的举措？谢谢您。
With CETV and its affiliated website, my question goes to Minister Chen of Education. As you said in your opening remarks that the general pillars for China's educational system have been set up and the reform of this sector has entered into a new stage. We also know that on 4th September this year, the State Council has issued opinions on further enhancing reform in the educational sector. What will be the difficulties in this regard? What are the new considerations or measures to be adopted in this direction? Thank you.
谢谢您对教育改革的关注。
Well, thank you for your interest in the reform of educational system. Before answering question, I would like to share with you some concepts. The reform of the education sector has its own specialities. First of all, it is a gradual process. After the launch of reform, it will take time before its result come out. It will at least take 3 years. Second, for each and every reform measures of education, it directly concerns our people. It is actually a reform for our people. This is an important concept. Thirdly, it is a very much comprehensive reform that covers all areas, including schools, the society, and the family. The headmasters, the teachers, the students, as well as their parents. So it involves a very comprehensive evaluation method. In terms of top-level designs, we have already put in place some overall guiding principles on reform. As you have mentioned, the State Council has already issued relevant paper. We have also launched reform on college entrance examinations. We have also started reform on the development of senior secondary education, as well as the development of junior secondary education and compulsory stage education, focusing on reducing the burden of the students. For preschool education, we also have relevant reform measures. So all these are top-level designs covering the entire stage from a preschool stage to the university and the college stage. And all these reform measures have been approved by the State Council. Exchange and cooperation between China and other countries in the field of education is also something that we will do. This is an important part of reform of education, and we are implementing relevant measures. That is why I say that we have put in place the basic framework for reform of the education sector. Now we have already launched the implementation stage. We are implementing all of the measures. We are also focusing on some details, because in some areas, particularly in some leading areas, that progress has already been made. We are now turning to some of the details. For example, in the reform of the college entrance examination, we are tackling some problems occurred in the process of trials. And we are encouraging those prefectural level cities to support the whole process of reform.
那今天的记者招待会到此结束，谢谢大家。